Hello, and welcome to Small Town Big Screen. I'm one of your hosts, Kyle Robertson.
I'm a Manny Manual.
And today, we're here to talk about Bones of Crows in our finale episode.
Yeah.
So, as always, we're covering another local movie made here in town and had a pretty big impact, I would say.
On you especially.
On me especially. This is one that I worked on.
Yeah.
Spoilers. This was the biggest thing I had ever done and have ever done, and it's my favorite contribution to the film industry out of anything I've done, in the sense of what I was working on and in the sense of when I was working on it. I had just a great time. This is like one of those like core memory type things.
Sweet.
So super excited to talk about it. And without further ado,
All right, let's get into it.
let's get into it.
Bones of Crows was released on June 2nd, 2023. Written and directed by Marie Clements. Starring Grace Dove, Philip Forrest Lewitsky, and Remy Gerard. No Metascore. Not enough critics reviewed it, apparently.
I was surprised, actually.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
It made me sad.
Yeah, it feels perfect for critic review.
Yeah, but a Letterboxd score of 3.5. Yeah, really great. Awards and nominations. It got 3 nominations at the Canadian Screen Awards for Original Song, Achievement in Hair, Original Screenplay, 4 nominations, my apologies, and Achievement in Makeup at the Leo Awards. And the Leo Awards are the awards program for the British Columbia film and television industry. 13 nominations, 10 wins. So it won for Best Picture, Best Female Lead Performance for Grace Dove, Best Sound, Best Director from Marie Clements, Best Screenwriter from Marie Clements, Best Cinematography.
Yeah, that's the one.
There you go.
That's the one.
Best Musical Score, Best Production Design, Best Costume Design, and Best Casting in a Motion Picture. The other 3 nominations it failed to bring home that night. Best Male Supporting Performance for Jonathan Whitesell, my apologies, and Best Female Supporting Performance, gonna butcher this name, Alyssa, hold on, Wapatanak. I might have got it.
I believe in that.
Sweet.
I'm glad that you were...
Oh, there's one more.
Okay.
And Best Male Lead Performance for Philip Forrest Lewitsky. The filming locations in Victoria, Vancouver, and Kamloops, British Columbia, baby!
They're actually missing some.
Oh, that's all that's listed.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Yeah. No, they're missing some. We were in Vernon.
Okay.
A few. This one's fair. A few of the surrounding cities around Victoria we were in.
Okay.
And I'm trying to remember. I was corrected on this once on the podcast already. Kilshenna?
That's right.
Hey, there we go. I'm learning.
All right.
Debatably merit as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. The plot. Cree code talker Eileen Spears survives her traumatic past in Canada's residential school system to continue her family's generational fight against systemic starvation, racism, and sexual abuse. Kyle, it is time to share your spoiler-free thoughts on Bones of Crows.
So it cannot be understated the impact that this movie had on my life. I mean, in pretty much every fashion. This is the longest time I've spent on a film. It was just over 3 months, 3.5 months of work, and then plus a few pickup days after the main, or during the main bulk of winter. We kind of started in September and went all the way to December, and then stopped for like a Christmas break, and then picked up some stuff in January when there was snow in Kamloops. So longest thing I've ever done, most hours I have. This was fully on me, but the longest day I've ever worked was Bones of Crows in combination with another film. I worked a half day on one and I did a full day on Bones of Crows, and then worked a half day on the horror film Friendship Game. I don't know if I mentioned this on that episode or not, but it was 18 hours plus, like I think 2 or 3 hours of driving to get to both locations and everything. It was a lot. We were shooting in Knutsford for Bones of Crows, and then I came to downtown Kamloops, and then went home. But it was a long day.
I think 14's my longest with Canada Post.
Yeah, that sounds
around this time of year.
Oh,
Christmas.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we live and we learn. I also made good money that day,
So did I.
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
And that's another thing that this film basically gave me the ability to be financially free for school. When I went back, this was the last thing I did before I went back. If I didn't have this project, I would have had to figure something out while I was in school, which would have been tough for the type of program I was in. So I am in so many ways grateful to Bones of Crows. It taught me a lot. I learned a lot in my field as well. And I felt like I was actually contributing to something that meant something. So all of that aside, the actual film, I got to watch it for the first time as the opening ceremonies film for Vancouver International Film Festival. And that was really cool. They held tickets for all of the crew and everyone got a +1. So I brought all of my friends from school, like literally like everyone that wanted to come. And we sat and waited and waited and waited. Well, people who were crew in Kamloops and Victoria didn't show up because they couldn't make it to Vancouver for whatever reason, and we snatched their tickets. There's like 8 or 9 of us that ended up going and seeing it. It was so cool. But I was extremely emotional watching it the first time because it was a lot more fresh, and the impact it had on me was a lot more fresh. And seeing the story for the first time was it's a tough story to watch, so it had a really big impact on me. And I've now watched it 4 or 5 times because literally anytime anyone's like, hey, I haven't watched Bones of Crows, I'll immediately be like, do you want to watch it like right now? Let's go watch it. So I've been taken up on that a few times now, and it doesn't have the same like emotional gut punch to me anymore. Like I used to cry multiple times throughout it for multiple reasons, story related reasons. And then also there's some parts of the film that are just so closely tied to events in my life that happened during the show that it makes me cry to remember the day that we filmed that, for a multitude of reasons. But this is a really tough story to contain into one movie, which is why it's also a series. It's a 5-part series as well. And I think the only thing that it falters in is it's like it's also one of its bigger strengths is it's telling this generational story, and you almost don't get to, like, the characters are almost representative of some part of what they're trying to say instead of a character who has a problem. It's like they're trying to show the parts of generational trauma through these characters so much that you almost lose the humanity of the character in the problem that they have. So there's kind of a balance that is more towards including everything, because it's such a massive scope. So in order to include everything, you have to lose some of the human bits. And I did watch for the first time the entire series in order to prep for this. I squeezed it in. It was close. But in the series, you get way more into the like human element of the characters, as opposed to just the traumas that they go through, which I think the film is more focused on. So it was powerful to get to watch that series, but I will try to not let it interfere with reviewing the movie. But I think the acting is really well done. I think this is well directed. Not to like slightly tap myself on the shoulder, but I think the cinematography is really good. I think there's a couple of really strong things that I actually don't like a lot. One of them being this really strong vignette, especially in the black and white. That's just vignette effects are something that I just don't like in general. So this one was a really strong one, as you know. But I think this is a really impressive creative effort. It's, an important story to tell. I'm forever grateful to have been a part of it. And I'm glad that we get to review it today. So I'll cede the floor here. What were your thoughts, Manny?
I was not in the mood for this kind of movie. I was kind of I watched this over the weekend, and I was in the mood for something fun and enjoyable, and this was not it. In regards to that, is this a well-made film? Yeah, it is spectacularly made. It's incredibly well acted. It is beautifully shot. The story is great. I agree. I didn't know it was a series. This definitely, obviously, could have been expanded. Even with its runtime, I still felt things were skipped over and rushed. But it's such a great movie. My score is going to reflect on how well made it is, not out of my enjoyment, because I was not in the headspace for this kind of traumatic experience. And this just scratches the surface of what happened with all those people at residential schools. My dad was at that residential school that they filmed at. He has never spoken a word about it. And I think maybe I should try to broach the subject with him before he's gone so I can learn that history. But I'm unsure if he'd be willing to open up that can of worms. So I'm very hesitant. But perhaps I should at least try. So this hit obviously pretty close to home. The scene shot inside the school. I've been in that school countless times because I live right there and I have to go into that building. I used to have to go in fairly regularly for various reasons. So I won't lie, it was cool to see it on screen. But then the subject matter we're talking about, it hit pretty hard. And so I look forward to revisiting this movie when I'm in the mood to watch something of this kind of nature. It's very similar to my this is going to sound horrible, but I can't find it is similar to my enjoyment of Schindler's List. That movie is perfect, but I have to be in the mood to watch that movie. The subject matter are similar, sadly.
Yeah.
And when I'm in the mood for it, I'm able to take in that trauma and enjoy the film while letting my emotions be real. In this one, it's the same thing. I know that when I'm in the mood to watch a serious film and I want to watch this, it's going to be a much more enjoyable experience in that I'm ready to accept those feelings I'm going to feel. Over this weekend, I was not. And so I was really fighting getting through this movie because I was like, I'm not in the mood to feel this way. I'm in too good of a mood.
Yeah.
To do this. So when I give my rating at the end, my rating is going to be on the quality of the film and not my enjoyment, because my enjoyment was very low. Not because of how good the movie's made, because it is brilliantly made, but I was just in the wrong headspace to watch something this deep and disturbing.
Yeah.
So yeah. Why don't we get into it?
Let's get into it.
All right, our 5 favorite things.
Yes.
I'll start off.
Sounds good.
Okay. My number 5 was the one I actually touched on in Spoiler Free, seeing the residential school on film. I've grown up here in Kamloops. I've spent my whole life here. I drive past that school every single day as I live 2 minutes past it. So seeing it was surreal. And seeing it for the institution that it truly is was harrowing.
Yeah.
Knowing the history within those walls. And even though I knew the history within those walls, seeing it portrayed on screen was powerful. And one of the things that gave me a little chuckle, it's the same kind of things we talk about with the friendship game, where the character walks out the front of Fun Factor and comes out in the back of an alley in downtown Kamloops.
Yeah.
Right? If you don't live here, you don't blink an eye. The one thing with the residential school in there is there's it's either I would either see it's either a composite shot or digital, but in front of the residential school ground is a very lovely little soccer field, but they had like this grass that is at the same level of the school where the soccer field is dipped down.
Yeah.
And it was just, if you don't live here, you're not going to notice it, but I noticed it, like it was kind of jarring. I was like, oh.
Yeah, I find it massively jarring.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, like, that's not real. So, but seeing the school itself on screen was cool and harrowing at the same time. Mm-hmm. So while it was a little, I can't quite say traumatic, but seeing what was depicted in there and knowing the history of it still was cool to see it on screen. So that's my number 5.
Nice. Yeah, I totally agree. It's such a, like, as a location, it has so much just like incredible potential. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was obviously perfectly suited for this film, but even just your average film, like it's from another era.
Yeah.
And residential schools have such a pretty consistent architecture. So it's impressive to see, but yeah, I found it massively jarring as well. All of the fields around it. And then also, I mean, I wouldn't have the extent of experience, but having worked on this film in the residential school, it's so different to be like, you're walking around in it. And then when you go and see the film, like when you're on set, your head is like pretty on what you're doing most of the time. So you don't give consideration to when you actually see the movie and you see what happened, a fictionalized version, but still what happened in those hallways that you were working in the rooms you were working in. It's tough. It's interesting as well. Like, gave me some perspective for sure.
Cool.
But, yeah.
Your number 5.
My number 5. This is the hardest time I had to pick 5, and to stay to 5. But to pat my own back a little bit and get it out of the way, my number 5 is the cinematography. Nice. So I have a tiny, minuscule role to play in the cinematography. I worked in the grip department.
Let me just interject here.
Yeah.
Cinematography is my number 3.
Nice. I was hoping it would be on there.
This film's beautiful.
It's really good. Hey?
Go ahead, continue.
So the cinematographer is Vince Arvidsson. Really nice guy. They used a lot of their lunches to have kind of key creative meetings, but he did have a free lunch at one point in Victoria and came and sat with just a group of us grips and just talked to us about how to navigate film and like how he got to where he is. And
that rules.
Yeah. And how, the kinds of things that we should be doing to advance our careers, and like specifically talking to individuals and be like, what do you want out of this industry? Like, where are you trying to go? And giving advice based on his progression and his friends' progressions and those kinds of things. So really incredible person to work for. His work is incredible. I think he just did a beautiful job with black and white, lots of CGI, like visual effects, lots of practical stuff, lots of massive sweeping landscapes, and also like really close, tight sets. Like we were working on some locations that were very small.
That residential school, it's tiny.
Yes.
In there. It's
Yeah.
a big building.
Yeah.
But those hallways, you can barely have two people walking side by side.
Yeah. And we also shot one of the, like when you were mentioning when someone comes from somewhere, is it just in a completely other different place? Because we are in spoilers now. The scene where Grace delivers the baby that is taken from her.
Mm-hmm.
When she walks out the stairs, that room is in the attic of the church that is separate to the residential school. And she walks out into the school like immediately. Even now, my brain has a really hard time connecting that geography because I know they're like nowhere near each other.
Yeah.
But that room, though, in the attic of the church is the stairway up to there. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's tiny. Like, yeah. So props to Vince and the whole crew for figuring out how to make this work. Also, shooting in the winter we did that for 3 days in like Knutsford level snow in January. That was a unique challenge to itself. Shooting in anything that's bright and reflective is already kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just want to, all of this is to say Vince did an amazing job, put together an amazing team as well, and accomplished something really, really amazing. I think he really, in this film, excels with the landscape and working with the landscape and making it look good in so many different conditions. Like I said, like black and white, full color, with VFX, without VFX, these like incredible drone shots, these like static shots. He has the opportunity to do so much and he really ran with it. So props to him, props to that whole team. And I appreciate that now I get to say I worked in the grips department on a Leo award-winning cinematography team.
Yeah, so like I said, it's my number 3. It's beautifully shot. It's
Yeah.
one of the first things I noticed is how good the movie looked, how well it was shot. Really great movement of the camera, beautiful, like especially, and I don't know where this is filmed, but them out in the fields.
Pretty much all in Knutsford.
Knutsford, okay. I'm just curious how you got those fields in Knutsford in the winter, because there's no snow.
So we got them in the winter and in like September.
Okay.
So we got both.
Okay.
January and September.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember you telling me it was a winter shoot. I'm like, so in my mind, I was like, I have no idea where they shot these.
Yeah.
Like if it's winter, I'm like, you can't get those without snow. So what I love about it is that I have cinematography ranked higher than you, which is great.
I couldn't,
Yeah.
yeah. It feels like
you won an award. You're on an award-winning team.
Hey.
Probably should have been your number 1. I'm just saying.
No, my number 1 is easily my number 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
My number 4.
Yeah.
I have to look at my phone because I have to remember exactly.
Okay.
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 So at 2 hours, 5 minutes, and 23 seconds of the film, in the credits, I got to see my friend Kyle Robertson's name on screen in the grips department. That is my 4th favorite thing about this film.
That's so kind.
I loved it so much. I kept watching. I kept looking. I'm like, it's gonna be coming soon. It's gonna be coming soon. And as soon as your name came on screen, I just pumped my fist. I'm like, I know that guy.
You must be waiting for a pretty long time. It takes a little while to get down there. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's my 4th favorite.
Oh, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
I actually also waited to find it because I remembered there being some controversy about the credits for me at
Interesting.
some point. And part of it was I switched positions within the department multiple times throughout the shoot. I think I was mainly like, I'd spent my most days as a lead grip and then just a grip for quite some time. And I bested like 3 to 5, I think it was 3 days, which taught me that I was nowhere near ready to best at that level. I had been besting hallmarks for collectively like 30 something days. So I thought I was ready. I was not ready. But I scraped by, and then the guy that was supposed to be doing it was able to resume his responsibilities. But yeah, seeing my name on that credit list was nice. And I think it was, I got made fun of because I'm the very last one in my department out of everybody.
That's what you get for ditching off into other departments, traitor.
Yeah, well, what can I say?
All right. That was my number 4.
Well, I appreciate that.
Pumped to see your name on screen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hopefully it happens a little more often.
I'd like that.
Yeah.
Your turn. What's up?
My
number
turn.
4.
My number 4, the directing. So I did talk to Marie. I didn't obviously work with her at all. But her style on set, I thought was very effective. I think she's a very good director. She's very good with her actors. She's very good with crew. She did make a point to try and like know people and learn people's names and talk to people. But obviously she's extremely busy. But I think her results are really good. I think there were she had a massive cast, first of all. There is so many actors, especially because she was directing and creating the series at the same time as the feature film. So in the series, it just expands even more. But I think she has some like really incredible standout performances surrounded by mostly really good performances. And there's a couple that I think could maybe be a little bit better. But, I think considering everything and considering how many casts there were, I think she just did a great job. And, the acting is proof of her skill as a director. And also, as you mentioned earlier in the cinematography, the camera movement as well, that's a combination effort. I think, her ability to tell this massive story, is admirable, and she did it very well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I've already talked about my number 3.
You have.
Cinematography. So you might as well go back to back, buddy.
Man, back to me. So I was going with the use of their landscapes and just general locations, not just Kamloops. I'm included Vancouver. I think like there's no actually. I really like the way that they used a couple of the locations in Vancouver as well, but especially in Kamloops and the Victoria stuff, I think their use of locations and locations they got were just incredible. They made the most of every single location. They got obviously incredible access here to the residential school, and they made the most of it. And also the way that they use Knutsford, I think they just shot it beautifully. I think they used every opportunity to show off the landscape that they could. And then in Victoria, they got access to the theater for the concert hall that they used, and I loved using that location, and I think they did a great job, and I loved the scenes in the movie related to it. But they also got access to a Anglican church that was just beautiful in Victoria. Oh, it's like European church kind of thing, just like fully stone built, like they went all out. So yeah, my number 3 is the use of their locations and also the access that they got themselves. I think they just did a great job.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Nice pick.
Thank you.
My number 2, is one that I can only talk about surface level
Okay.
because I can't repeat the quote.
Mm.
But it is the line that Aileen gives the racist old lady that she works for. It is such a mic drop
Yeah.
that, again, I was like pumping my fist.
Yeah.
I'm like, well done.
Yeah.
Well done. So for those that have seen the movie, they know exactly what I'm talking about. For those that haven't, I wish I could share with you what was said, but unfortunately I'm unable to.
Yeah.
It is awesome.
You could paraphrase if you wanted.
Nah, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good.
It would do it injustice.
Yeah.
It's a great line.
It is.
Yeah.
So that's my number 2.
Nice.
The mic drop moment.
That's an awesome pick. I really love that. I think that's probably like my favorite Aileen moment throughout the movie. My number 2, I copped out a little bit. So I'm going with the acting.
Okay.
I think by and large, especially the child performances were effective. It's difficult, and this goes to Marie's credit as well. It can be difficult to get performances out of kids. Seeing them work was really cool. Like, some of them are actually pretty professional.
Nice.
And then others were just like kids running around trying to do stuff, which was cool to see. But I really want to highlight 3 people. Obviously, Grace Dove as Aileen Spears. There's a reason she's the lead. She does an incredible job of this, and telling the story, this multi-generational story, and having to play the same character at so many ages and in so many different situations. I think she just did a great job. Nothing but respect for her as a person. She was great on set, and her performance is really, really good. And then I also want to highlight Jonathan Whitesell, who you mentioned didn't get the Leo for Best Supporting Male.
Correct.
I thought he was great. I always felt like I knew him from somewhere, but looking at his filmography, I don't. And he also has like 8 films on Letterboxd, and that's it. And I think that's a crime because he is awesome. I think he plays this role just perfectly. I hope that he gets significantly more film work, so that I can keep watching him perform. He was just great. And then the last performance I wanted to highlight was I hope I pronounced this correctly, Corinne Vanasse, maybe Vanasse or Vanesse. She plays the nun. I think that she's not in as much of the film, but she plays an incredibly well nuanced character. Her facial acting is amazing. So those were the 3 performances I wanted to highlight.
Cool. So what you're telling me is that you have one spot and you just put a broad general thing so you could sneak 3 more things so you have more things on your list?
Yeah, you didn't stop me. So
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to see what your number 1 is, the movie itself, and you're just going to tell me about the whole movie.
Everything. I'm going to literally like talk sentence but moment by moment.
You're just going to read the
about whole
screenplay?
plot.
Just going to read the screenplay?
No, I'll read like a sentence of the screenplay, and then I'll describe the visual that goes along with it.
I look forward to it.
And then I'll tell you my feelings about it.
Wicked.
Yeah.
Wicked. My number 1 is another kind of mic drop moment, and it's Taylor telling off the Cardinal in the taxi.
Nice.
It is such a great, powerful moment that I was just so excited to watch on screen. It was awesome. I love people getting taken down a peg, and even though this one's done in private instead of publicly, it doesn't take away from the power of the moment, and it left me just beaming. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It reminded me so much of one of my favorite endings to a movie of all time, and that's Michael Clayton.
Yeah, I was just about to say. Yeah.
Which, sadly, I can't repeat. I can't repeat the ending of Michael Clayton either. But that ending to Michael Clayton is like chef's kiss.
Yeah.
Perfect. And this is one of those moments. This isn't the end of the movie. This is towards the end of the movie. But like, if the movie ended on this, I'd be stoked.
Yeah.
Wouldn't get the resolution you actually need for the story they're telling, but it's such a great. I was just like, another just fist pump moment.
Nice.
I love I love it when you intellectually take down somebody with facts. Oh, it was delicious. It was my favorite thing about the movie was that moment.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I love those picks.
Yeah.
It was awesome. My number one.
Yeah.
My number one is the song at the end. Yeah. And I just can't stop it from being my number one. It's an incredibly just personal reason. But I first want to give proper credit where credit's due. So the song is called You Are My Bones. It was composed by Wayne Lavallee and Jesse Zubot or Zubo. Oops. It was performed by the Victoria Symphony Orchestra with vocals performed by CB and Pura Fay. So this was filmed, like I said, in Victoria. I think it was our very last day in Victoria. And it was a super easy setup for the most part for our end. And it all kind of stayed the same. There was a super complicated, like massive jib move over like a crowd of people that I wasn't involved in. So I got the opportunity to just sit in the back of the theater and watch, though it's a recording of someone's voice, but I mean, it looks like someone performing the song over and over and over and over again. So some people got a little like tired of it. Like the novelty wore off after a couple hours, but it really didn't for me. Like I just loved sitting in this dark theater, getting paid to sit and watch this like performance of this song. And I loved the song and I still do. And one of the big reasons that this stands out even more for me was someone who worked in the grips department. She took over from me. I was the lead grip, and then she took over that position in Victoria. We basically just sat there and we talked a lot and had like a great conversation, but eventually it just became just like sitting watching this performance, and it was just a really like, it's just a moment that is like stuck in my head. It was just like, it started as like the whole grips department basically that wasn't working was just chilling together, and I eventually, it was just me chilling in a theater, like by the end of it had great conversations with all of these people while working on something that I thought was really cool. So every time I hear that song, I'm kind of reminded of that. And it was also like the end of Victoria was the middle. It was sandwiched by Kamloops and Vancouver. So it wasn't the end of the show, but it was the end of that block. So it just felt like such a moment, and it stuck with me for like forever. I'm sure I will not forget that until I'm like dead or dementia ridden. So
okay,
yeah, wow. That is by far my number one favorite part of this movie, because every time that song plays, I'm just like flooded with all of the memories of that show.
I love that for you.
Yeah,
well done.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. What didn't we like about this movie? I'll go.
You want to go?
Okay.
Yeah.
So, because I wasn't in the mood for this kind of film, I found myself not as invested as I should be. So the constant time jumping left me often going, where are we again? Which is all on me, because I have no problem following time jumps in other films. It's just, I just was not in the mood for something this traumatic.
Yeah.
So for me, it was the constant time jumping that I found at times unnecessary. A more linear story would have worked for me personally, but not fully linear, but I just felt that there was too many jumping back and forth.
Yeah.
But it's a minor complaint that I know on my rewatch I'll probably erase.
Yeah. It is a lot of jumping, and it's also a lot of jumping to like one single scene of something, and then it's gone and you never come back. So I hear you. That's one of the things that I think I hear most often as like a slight criticism.
Yeah. All right.
So mine, I already kind of touched on mine earlier in my non-spoiler thoughts, but the characters sometimes feel like they're telling us, like they're there to tell us what happened to real people instead of like, which is true. That's this story is all about what happened to real people, but the characters, I would like them to feel a bit more like people that I'm watching this happen to, as opposed to a like mouthpiece to tell the story. And that's probably to do with me not having a personal connection to what happened. I don't know what your thoughts would be on something like that, but if it's your own story, having the characters be a mouthpiece is better, which would honestly make it the correct choice for this film. But for me personally, I like to feel like I'm watching a human being within the story having all this stuff happen to them, as opposed to like a character, if that makes sense.
Yeah, works for me.
Okay,
Right.
Very slight criticism.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So next up is we have our peek behind the curtain.
Mm-hmm.
We'll bring in our guest, Garry Gottfriedson. We'll have a little chat with him right now.
Hello, and welcome to our peek behind the curtain today. I almost forgot what it was called. Today we've got a special guest, Garry Gottfriedson, with us here today. So, Garry, you were a cultural consultant, right, on Bones of Crows?
Yeah, cultural advisor.
Cultural advisor?
Yeah, to Bones of Crows, yeah.
Perfect. Can you tell us a little bit about kind of what your role entailed?
As the cultural advisor?
Yeah.
Basically what Marie Clements seconded me for was to help advise on some of the cultural components, the key cultural components and protocols for the content of her script. So that would look, that had to do with the film itself, but it was also to be a cultural support for the cast and crew. And I think that was the bigger part of it, was the support aspect of it, taking care of both cast and crew because of the heavy content of dealing with the residential schools and actually being in the residential school itself. So this was my primary role with the Bones of Crow as their cultural advisor, or maybe even a cultural counselor in a sense, but I was a support person for everyone that was there. And it wasn't just focused, the beauty of it was not just focused on the cast. It was focused on everyone, the technicians, the whole film crew. So that was the beauty of it. And that was, I think, the magic of this position as well, too.
Yeah, I have to say, like having worked on it and worked with you, your presence, I mean, from my perspective, it's just your general demeanor. You are so calming to be around.
Yeah.
It was really amazing having you on set and having like your perspective on keeping everybody safe even, and just like able to continue working even though like it was some pretty heavy content that was being created. So I always really appreciated you on set. We got to chat sometimes, and I think it was a really, really smart move on the production's part to include that role, and specifically to include you in that role. So I just wanted to take a second to say thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And it was an incredible experience for me. And I hope that there was that level of safety and comfort for everyone that was involved there, everyone that was involved in that whole production. And so, I mean, throughout my whole involvement with the film, I was really taken by the courage of everyone and everyone's ability, despite the heaviness of the content of the film and what Marie and was really wanting to portray from that film. It was heavy for everyone. And, you know, it was also very difficult for me because I was in that residential school for 5 years, you know, so, but, you know, over the years, I was able to stand strong and to be able to not let it consume me in any way or overtake my spirit in any way. In fact, it drove me deeper into understanding my culture, my language, thus being able to provide that support for the cast and crew.
That's really sweet. How did Marie come to get in contact with you? Did you know her prior to the making of the film?
I did. I've known Marie for maybe 30 years.
Okay.
And I worked with her on the Red Snow as well. But I had no role in there other than to talk about landmarks or a very small role. This was a much more significant role. So I knew Marie for several years. And so she asked me if I would be interested in this project. Mm-hmm. Particularly because it had to deal with residential schools, and then it would be triggering perhaps for some people.
Yeah.
And so that's how I was sort of reeled into to providing whatever support I could provide, I guess.
Excellent.
Yeah.
There's something that was on Bones of Crows that you had a big part of that I've never seen in any other film, and that was the smudge truck.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you could speak a little bit to kind of how that came about. Like, was that an idea from the very beginning, or was that something that someone came up with kind of just getting into production, or like what was the logistics of managing it as well?
Well, the smudge truck came about because one of the things that we talked about with Marie was we needed cultural safety. Smudging is a very important aspect of my culture, and it's very indicative of other Indigenous cultures as well too. But we had no place to do the smudging. That was something that sort of we came up with when we actually got on set, because in a sense we were kind of homeless. We were sort of wandering around, and if you remember, I would be sitting in some of the tents with people because we didn't really have a place that people could go to and a reference point where they could find us. So that's how the smudge truck came about. And, you know, that smudge is a very powerful, in my culture, our belief is that it's a very powerful medicine that helps us wash away any ill feelings or sadness or any discontent that you may be feeling at the time. So it was like a cleansing. It was the opportunity for cast and crew to be able to pick up and maybe take the next step. And so that's how the smudge truck came about. It was, and I thought it was a brilliant idea. It was such a great place. And, you know, as you know, we were filming outside a lot, and, you know, we in the winter.
Yeah.
So we needed a place where we could light the smudge and have a reference point for everybody at the same time. So that's how the smudge truck came about. What a great idea it was.
Yeah, sounds like it was born out of necessity.
It was born out of necessity.
Yeah, those
really.
tents were cold.
Yes, the tents were very cold.
Yeah.
So, Garry, for some people, for our listeners and for our viewers, could you actually kind of maybe give a rundown of what smudging entails? Because a lot of people might not know what that is.
Okay. So, as I explained just a couple minutes back, a couple sentences back, the smudge it's like an incense in a sense. And it's a combination of different plants that we use from our area here. So the smudge that Steve and I were using, Steve was my partner in this. He was the other cultural support person, Steve Basil. He's also from my nation. So what we did is we used a combination of different plants, and we mix it together. We have a shell and a feather, a fan or a feather. We light this smudge, and we bring people in. We could either do it for them or have them smudge themselves with the smoke. So the smoke is going, and it's like washing yourself with the smoke. And so there was two specific ways that we could do that. And so the smudge was a cleansing, and that's what it was.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
What was your favorite part about working on the movie?
My favorite part was working directly with the cast and crew. Getting to know everyone on set on a personal level, and just being able to be with them. And I made a lot of friends on that, who I still keep in touch with.
Yeah.
Mostly from the crew, not so much the cast, but the crew. Like when I'm in Vancouver, I hang out with, when I'm down there, we hang out together. We go for dinner. We go for walks. We talk about our experiences, not only about being on Bones of Crows, but other projects that we may be involved in, others. So my favorite part was the connection with the people.
Oh, I love that.
That was my favorite part. And the humility, the dedication, and I do want to talk a little bit about the crew.
Okay.
Because I was very, very impressed with how they were able to shoot some of the scenes and the heaviness of what was being portrayed throughout each scene, and be able to stay focused, but yet still show that human side of themselves when they had finished. And that was magical for me. And that was my favorite part. I really, really enjoyed working with the crew so much. And I learned so much from each member that I worked with there too.
Yep.
Because I had never been involved in any kind of a production like that before. When we did Red Snow, I was just sort of sitting back and on the side. Yep. I never talked to anybody. I just sat on the side and just watched. And so this gave me the opportunity to engage with everybody. And that was really my favorite part. And it was very, very rewarding in the end.
Excellent.
Yeah. Yeah. It was amazing.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to say, like, for me, walking into Bones of Crows on day one, every other film set I've been on, there's this level of cynicism that comes out of a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I was genuinely like worried about how the crew was going to do, and just like what their demeanor was going to be. And then, day one, we started with a beautiful opening ceremonies. Yeah. And from that moment where everyone treated what we were doing with reverence and respect and professionalism, all at the same time. Yeah. It was comforting on the first day. Oh, and that stayed throughout the rest of the shoot. Was I don't know what happened, but that group just all kind of collectively knew how to behave and how to be and how to work for this show. It was really, really nice to see.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And when I entered into my part in it, Um, I was initially brought on specifically for the cast, and we had some very strong discussions about, yes, it is the cast, but what about the crew? Because they're witnessing this, and their job is equally as important, if not more important, than many of the members of the cast as well. So we felt strongly that the crew needed, and that we were open to that equal support. And I thought that was great. That was really good. And everybody was open to it, Marie and Trish and Christine. And so they were all open to that. And they allowed us to have that freedom and flexibility to work with you guys and to work with everyone. So it wasn't just, maybe the cameraman or Philip or Grace. It was also the ones that were working hard afterwards, coiling up the wires and packing everything and putting the sets up, and we had the opportunity to sit with each and every one of them. And I remember, like, when we were up there at Knutsford, they said, well, you don't have to be there until like 3:00 or something. But I knew that the crew was coming in overnight, and we would meet them at dawn and sit with them and, help them even, So it was a great opportunity for me to connect with people at many different levels. And I think that was so important for this whole project. Yeah.
Yeah, it made a huge difference to me, and from the conversations that I had, it made a huge difference to everybody.
Yeah.
It was. It's not often that the crew is considered for things that involve the cast. Most of the time, all of the consideration goes to the cast. So it's nice to hear that conversation was had in advance, and obviously you enacted it. I mean, your impact was immeasurable to the crew, I would say.
Thank you. I really saw the difference. I remember that when they were they were in Vancouver Island, and they did some of the shooting down there. Were you part of that too?
Yes. Yeah.
And in Vancouver, they brought me back down there for a day or two, and that was specifically because some of the crew members and Philip, who played, the husband, but some of the crew members needed that support, and they felt comfortable enough and strong enough to be able to voice that and request that I be a part of it, and I did. It was great. I didn't mind going down there. I didn't mind, it was awesome. And I kind of wanted to stay with it all the way from the beginning to the end. Mm-hmm. I just wanted to, if not just be with the people, So that was important to me. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, it was, I got to do beginning to end. I was there every day, and it was really cool it's the biggest thing I've ever been a part of, both in like importance and in the actual duration of the shoot and in the budget of the shoot. Like it was a big step up for me, and
wonderful.
Yeah, it was really cool to be able to go beginning to end with it. We definitely missed you when you weren't there, though.
But did you know a lot of the background of the residential school or the content in which we looked?
I knew the general story. Yeah. I would say. Yeah. But I don't have any, upfront personal experience in my own life.
Yeah.
And to be able to see so many like creative people coming together to tell that story.
Yes.
I gained so much understanding of exactly what happened, and the story of Bones of Crows doesn't obviously end with the residential school. It's you learn about the generational impact of that, and
absolutely,
to be able to see that story be told up close, I feel much more like knowledgeable about everything. And also my grandparents had passed at that time, my adoptive grandparents, and one was Métis and the other was Mohawk. To be able to kind of, like, I felt like I was getting closer to them after they had passed. At the same time, to be able to learn a little bit of that history. Sorry, I'm getting a little emotional. I haven't talked about them in a long time. In terms of their passing, at least. But it felt like I was getting to learn a little bit and connect with them at the same time. And even though obviously the content is it's heart-wrenching and it's pretty brutal, it was it still made me feel like I was just learning culturally a little bit more about them and their people. It was nice.
You know, and the thing about it is, from my perspective, right, the way that Marie had told the story and how everything unfolded, there were some parts in there that were extremely difficult for me when we were doing the late night shooting up in the dorms, because the top dorm is where us little kids were. And I was right in there, you know, so some of those scenes and some of the messages that she wanted to bring out were, could have been extremely triggering for me if I didn't have the strong foundation of culture and my understanding of culture from my parents as well too. And so some beautiful things, even though that's an ugly, tough story, there's also some very beautiful, strong things that resulted out of that. The resilience through language, the resilience of understanding our culture, being able to go back to the land, being able to understand how Canada that Canadians in general knew very little about this story and the things that took place throughout our history of the residential school. So, and that's a lot of the discussions that I actually had with not only the cast but the crew as well. And it really broadened the perspective of Canadian history, but also it broadened a closer relationship between, I think, at least for me, and I think Steve would say the same thing too, because we were so amazed of how open the non-Indigenous people that were involved were open to what we were trying to do. And I think everybody understood it and respected it, and it made our work so much easier. I don't like to call it work, but for a lack of a better word that I could use right now, that's what I'll say. So it was a very powerful experience. One I talk about a lot. I talk about that a lot, you know. So, yeah, it also gave me a sense of hope for Canada in general, and that's what the crew did. That's what the cast did. That's what Marie and Christine and Trish did, and everybody else that was involved in it. You know, the whole production of it. I saw that friendship and that deep respect and everything grow from it, which I didn't experience before. This is the first time in my life, that movie is the first time in my life I experienced that. And that's pretty incredible.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
I'm very happy for you. That's fantastic.
thank you. Because it really brought a sense of humanity and understanding, the human condition from many, many aspects. But that sense of humanity and friendship, respect, that we had, that we all shared, because we were all in it together, and yeah, it was amazing.
Oh, I love that for you.
Thank
I'm
you.
very happy for you.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah.
I only have one more question.
Shoot.
My last question will just be in regards to the general idea. How do you feel about Kamloops as a whole being a place for movies and film to come shoot here? Do you feel this is a good place for productions to come and make their movies?
I think absolutely. I think look at the geography of the land. I think Kamloops is a great place to be able to do a variety of different types of films. We down here in the valley, we have the sagebrush and everything. Up there at Paul Lake, where I live, we have the forest. We have, we have so much different types of landscape for one thing. But I think the openness of the city and the people. I would like to see more. Obviously, I would love to see more films done here, and I think Kamloops is a very ideal place to be able to come and do all kinds of different films of, yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. I love to hear that.
Yes.
Yeah, this was actually my first question, but I kind of skipped it. So it feels a little silly to ask now, but have you seen the movie? And if so, like, what was your experience first watching
The Bones of Crows?
Bones of Crows, yeah.
Yes, I did see the movie. I was actually invited in to do some of the editing part of it, to watch the editing and go through that editing process. So I got to see parts of and experience parts of that. And when before the movie was going to come out to the public, they asked a few of us to go in and watch the movie and get our feedback on it. And when I seen the movie, for the first time, I knew already what the movie was about. But when it all came together, it really was heart-wrenching for me. And, there's so much that needs to be told still. And thus I just finished writing a book about the people, the students that were in there. And I think that's one of the things that really jumped out at me, was telling that story. It covered so many bases, and it really sort of like hit me really hard. It's like, how some people are so calm during a traumatic experience, but then afterwards they fall apart? That was me. After I seen the full production, after I seen the movie for the first time, I was like the wounded wolf. I just went running back to my own country, into the mountains, and I just let it out, And I didn't do it in front of anybody, but that's my way of, sort of how I dealt with it. It really, really strongly impacted me on a personal level. And partly because I was in that school for 5 years. So it really had awoken a lot of memory that I had suppressed myself and that I did not even want to talk about. So, yeah, it had a huge impact. I mean, it was very well done. Very well done.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us, Garry.
Yeah.
That's really nice of you. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
So how would you describe the effect of the making of Bones of Crows on the area that it was shooting in? Like, what was the effect on Kamloops and on the Secwepemc people as well, because we were very much, you know, in the space, like we were in the school here.
I think it's like grief. You go through different stages, and I think the impact it had of this movie within the Secwepemc Nation, we went through a series of different emotional experiences. Some, they weren't angry at the film itself. They were angry again at the church or the government. So there was that sense of urgency. We need to do something for our people. We also need to do something for Canada. So there was, from our perspective, there was that two levels of thought. But the first level of thought was we need to find a way to rebuild our people and deal with that part of our history. And so a lot of good things came of it. Language immersion programs started to come out of it. More teaching about our culture, because there's many people in my community that have lost that. So it gave that group of people an opportunity, and it gave people like me that opportunity to go in and say, yes, we can openly talk about our language now. We can openly talk about our ceremonies. We can openly go back into the land. We can go back and have those cultural teachings that that whole policy, that whole residential school policy was designed to eradicate. So it gave us permission to do that, and it gave that spark of inspiration. In terms of the city of Kamloops, I think it opened the door to have conversation. That it's let's talk about these things. Let's talk about truth and reconciliation now. Let's take it seriously. Because it's an opportunity. This film gave people an opportunity. I'm thinking about Thompson Rivers University, where they really took a look at what is truth and reconciliation then. Let's talk about education systems and programming, because we are an education institution. How do we change that, and how do we move forward in a good way? How do we not only educate our students, but educate ourselves? So that was a very positive impact. I was working at TRU, and one of the results that came out of that, directly from Bones of Crows, was a book that we just wrote on truth and reconciliation from an academic perspective. And so it had impacts in many, many different ways. These are just a couple of the obvious ways that I'm talking about. But connections with the Sikh community, because they continued their support with my community and with the Secwepemc community as well. That's another impact. So there are many, many other examples, some very small, subtle, but powerful, equally as powerful. And so a lot of openness was a result of this movie.
Nice. That's amazing. I had no idea the effect that it had branching out like that. That's awesome.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Like in schools, elementary schools, they want to know a little bit more. High schools, I know teachers that showed this film to their students, So it was an education tool, and it was a safe place to do it, to educate people, because we're talking about creativity, but we're talking about that content as well. So it was a good way to open conversations and educate. Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Yes, that was good. It was a smart move. Yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome. And yeah, if you had the chance to work on a film in this capacity again, do you think you would take
Absolutely, I would.
it? I kind of thought so.
Oh, for sure. I would jump at the opportunity immediately. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think this kind of role, even on just your average movie that's not got like a cultural focus, I think this kind of role of having somebody there for the cast and crew, just to talk to, it makes such a big difference. And I think I hope that's something that at least larger budget shows kind of start to take on as a long-standing role, because I have yet to see anything like it on another shoot, and it made a world of difference.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think this is the first time that that something like this had been done in such a production of this size. Right?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. Well, there has been talk about it from other projects that the producers, they've talked about it. That's certainly in the back of their mind. And I think we'll see more of it. I really think we'll see more of it. Can you imagine if some of the previous movies that came out that had Indigenous content or had advisors on it, I think it might have changed things a little differently. But it was a smart move, I think, on Marie Clement's part, for sure. And I think it was great for everybody, including me, so it just gave me that faith in humanity and, that reassurance that, yes, I might be Indigenous, I've gone through that, but I can still sit and meet with anyone and talk with anyone and build friendships outside of, my community. I've always done that my whole life, but it gave me more opportunity. And because I'm more creative and I had to spend my whole entire life on, a career, stepping out of that gave me permission to say, hey, why don't you do something that's creative? So I did.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm working I'm attempting to work on a screenplay with one of the characters in my novel that Marie really loved. Nice. And it's, so that's an example of it. So
nice. And why don't you tell us a little bit more, because you've touched on it a little bit. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your writing and your creative pursuits? Especially, you were telling us before, this year has been a pretty busy year for you.
Yes, I've just published my 15th book. So I haven't even seen the book in print yet. It just came out.
Wow.
And that's the one on truth and reconciliation, and it's called In the Glimmer of Hope. And it's specifically an academically written book, and it's for, the target, I suppose, would be for universities or university students. However, to get a glimpse of, what is truth and reconciliation and what does that mean and how are we actually implementing it. So that's one of the projects. One of the books that I just wrote is called The Flesh of Ice, which this movie actually inspired me to write. But I wanted to take a look at specifically the voices of the people. So I went back, and for the 5 years that I was there, I went back and found students that were in my classes, and I interviewed all of them. I wrote this book, and I told a story of 100 different people that was in that school with me, but in poetic form. And so I just had a interview from China, which is they told me was equivalent to the New York Times paper in China and the Globe and Mail just the other day. So and then I wrote a book in Spanish about colonization. So I'm on a Latin American tour. So this year, my schedule has been extremely busy. So when my book in Spanish came out, it was launched in Madrid, Spain. So I was on tour for 6 weeks in Europe with that book from May and June. Came back. I had a couple weeks off, and then started my other books. So I've been doing a lot of traveling with my own writing, and I'm trying to work on a couple of different other projects. One of them is this screenplay about one of the characters in this novel that I've still working on. So I'm doing a lot of that sort of stuff, and I'm trying to get more into understanding screenplays because I've never studied that genre. So I'm having fun with it, but I'm also angry with it too. It's extremely frustrating for me sometimes.
Screenplays are so weird.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting way of writing.
Yes, it is, because you don't have a lot of room to tell story.
Yeah.
Everything has to be told through these characters, and you have small little, shots of where these characters are or whatever, but it's a really, really frustrating way for me to think. So I'm struggling with it a little bit, but I'm having fun too.
Nice.
Yeah.
Excellent.
At the same time. And so, so that's what I've been doing. I've been asked to come in as an advisor on one other part of my life, which is because I grew up in a rodeo ranching family. So it's dealing specifically with horses and ranching, the ranching culture, rodeo culture. So it hasn't come to light yet, but I've been asked to be a part of that movie as well.
Nice.
But that's in the States. Yeah.
Nice.
Well, good luck with that, Garry.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I hope I get it. I hope something comes out of it because I really enjoy this kind of work too.
Nice.
Yeah. So.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's all of our questions there. So.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Garry.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah.
It was nice and easy and comfortable.
I'm glad to hear that. That's good.
Yeah.
So that wraps up our talk with Garry on the peek behind the curtains. So let's get to the next section, Kyle's cool facts. Big thank you for Garry Gottfriedson for joining us for Peek Behind the Curtain. That was a great interview. Really touching for him to share some really personal things as well.
Yeah.
And we wish him luck in his future endeavors.
Yeah, lots of stuff going on.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely highly recommend checking out any of Garry's work. He's an awesome person to support, and clearly he's finding success in his art. So there's something good to be consumed there.
Indeed.
Yeah.
All right, it's time to get into Kyle's cool facts.
So this film premiered at the TIFF Festival in Toronto, International Film Festival, and was also the opening film at VIFF, the Vancouver International Film Festival. Just going to show the coast-to-coast festival appreciation that Bones of Crows received. It was, I think, as you mentioned, nominated for 25 awards and won an additional 34 awards in its festival run. Very deserving, especially here in Canada. It's not hard to see why this film would be held so highly, especially in the festival circuit. So good for them. And I'm sure that they cleaned up and were tough competition for a lot of the other films that came out that year, festival-wise. Yeah. This film also references a quote by Sir John A. Macdonald, our first prime minister, which was to do with the starving of First Nations people to keep them essentially from revolting. And in the series, there's actually snippets where there is a actor playing Sir John A. And they choose this time direct quotes that are significantly more racist than the one they use in the film. I don't believe is a direct quote. It's like paraphrased, but the direct quotes they use are it's embarrassing that was our first prime minister and that he said stuff like that, because incredibly racist.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah. But yeah, just thought I would take a moment to highlight that. So obviously, just prior to filming, the 215 unmarked graves were found at the residential school here in Kamloops, sparking obviously nationwide searches for unmarked graves, all kinds of protesting, and we have, I would say, nationally a much greater awareness of what happened and kind of the depth of things. It seems to me that information was already widely known amongst the communities that were directly affected by residential schools. So it's nice that the rest of Canada is caught up. However, I bring this up because the Secwepemc Nation directly encouraged this to be filmed after it was already supposed to happen. But such a massive event happening, I can only imagine that would have maybe told some people to stop, or, this is not the time. There's already so much outrage going on. But Secwepemc Nation directly encouraged filmmaking to still happen and to continue, so that the story would be told and publicized as widely as possible. And through even obviously what would have been an incredibly difficult time for everyone that has been affected by the residential school system, and especially in our area here in Kamloops, where the filming was directly taking place. Yeah. So props to the Secwepemc leadership for allowing this film to continue and to flourish, and the support that it was given.
Agreed.
Yeah. This is an interesting one because I think it ties both of my segments together very nicely.
Oh, okay.
It is both a general cool fact and also quite local. This film had a really strong focus on utilizing local First Nations and Métis suppliers for everything in their film, which, like, there were some things like that we rented that we might have bought otherwise, because it was like we had an approved list of suppliers that we were supposed to go to first. So it was interesting. It helped the film support the people that the film was about as best as possible, which I really liked. But the film also got this treatment kind of back in return, where a lot of companies were trying to support the film as best as possible, especially people on that list that there was one that I reached out to personally. He bent over backwards to make sure that his business could supply this film, not just because it's business and that's money, but also he just kind of wanted to support what was happening. But the film was supported also by William F. White's, which is I would say probably the biggest equipment rental place in Vancouver. They're like a international thing. They might have been bought and turned into Sunbelt. I can't actually remember. That's bad because it just shows that I've been out of the big part of the industry for a long time. So I used to pick up when they were William F. White's all the time when I was working from them. but not so much anymore. Anyway, though, they donated the entire, to my knowledge, the grips and lighting package. I'm not sure about the camera package. I don't know what happened with that. I wasn't involved in that, but I'm pretty sure the whole grips and lighting package was donated. And when I heard that, I was like, oh, that's cool. It's probably not going to be very good. It's going to be all of their like side equipment. No, this was like fully kitted out. I mean, all equipment has issues, but I think they did the best that they could to make sure that we had what we needed to accomplish this. And also they gave us so many, it's almost like I don't work in this industry at all. Consumables, the word starts with a D. I don't know. Items that get consumed, you buy them from the rental place. Not disposable.
Whatever.
It'll come to me in the middle of the night, probably. But so many items that are consumable, disposable, they deplete. And I was surprised by that because they're very expensive too. Like some of the stuff that they were just giving away is like thousands of dollars worth of stuff. So big shout out to them and also all of the businesses that I imagine came together in support, and all of the individuals as well. It was kind of a local effort, but also in their case, a much larger effort.
Sure.
So, yeah, that's my cool facts.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Now for the small town impact,
Yes.
cinematic imprint.
Yes.
What do you got for us?
I have a few things. So we've already talked about this, but this film utilizes so many local locations, a lot of natural landscape, but also this film utilizes the residential school, which is I'm not sure what the policy is on use for film, but it was an incredible location to shoot at, and I hope that if the building is open to be filmed in, I hope that it's filmed in more, because it is a great location to use, and generating that economic benefit is a great way to take back that building, I would say, from an outsider's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And that was that point. Lots of local stuff used. I think they did incredible things with our landscapes. I think that's a running theme throughout this entire kind of season has been the landscapes here are beautiful to shoot and usually quite well used. So yeah. Grace Dove is a Secwepemc actress who also appeared alongside do you know this? She appeared alongside Leonardo DiCaprio in The Revenant, which was slated, or it wasn't slated, I apologize, that's incorrect. It was scouting in Kamloops, and they ended up going for their locations in Alberta instead. But yeah, Grace Dove, Secwepemc actress.
I had no idea she was local.
Yeah. I
Interesting.
don't know how local is local, or if she's just, through descendancy Secwepemc.
Oh, fair.
But
Okay. Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Right.
I genuinely have no idea.
That's totally cool.
But she was in The Revenant.
All right.
Yeah, pretty cool. Tyler Peters, who is also a local Secwepemc actor. He's actually definitely from here. He's one of the child actors. His first gig was Bones of Crows, and he has said that it has directly inspired him to pursue a career in acting. And he's now got, I believe, a small recurring role on the new Avatar: The Last Airbender series.
Awesome. Good for him.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I know one of his teachers, and he seems like a chill kid. So I'm glad he's finding some success, and I think he did a pretty darn good job in Bones of Crows. Pretty crazy big story to take on as your first role as a child.
Mm-hmm.
So good for him. This wasn't Marie Clement's first time shooting in Kamloops. She also shot Red Snow here another directorial effort. I'm not sure if she wrote it or not. I should have looked into that. But yeah, so she's now shot 2 films in this area. And those are my my small town impact bits and bobs.
Not bad.
Thank you.
Just quickly checking on Marie Clements for you.
Yeah.
Ooh, Red Snow.
Watch there be like a crazy like 3rd film that she shot here that I just missed.
Wrote it as well.
Wrote it as well.
Yeah.
She gives that vibe. She is a strong writer-director from what I've obviously seen in Bones of Crows. So I kind of want to check out her other stuff now.
Yeah, I think I will as well.
Nice. So that means time for us to...
Time to give this film a rating.
Yeah.
So like I mentioned before, my enjoyment level is low on this because I can't say it enough. I just was not in the headspace for this. But I can't deny how well the film was made. So this is an easy 4.
Nice.
Yeah, easy 4. I'm really looking forward to revisiting this movie when I'm in the mood for this kind of movie, because then my enjoyment of it will skyrocket immensely. But I just was not ready. I shouldn't say ready, because I knew what the subject matter of the film was about. I had no idea what the actual plot was, but I knew what the subject matter that they were covering. Mm-hmm. And I was dreading it because I was just in a really great mood. Mm-hmm. And I did not want to take it down, but I had to, and I did. And the movie is beautiful and well acted and everything, deserving of all the awards it won. So I'm looking forward to revisiting it, but it's a 4. It's a 4 for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to give a bit of a 2-pronged answer. I think if I hadn't worked on the film, I'd give it a 4. Having worked on it, it's such a 5 for me. Yeah.
Totally. 100%.
Yeah. But yeah, just to give that distinction, it's a full star of difference. And I've always kind of felt like a 5 is like a feeling you get after watching a movie. Mm-hmm. And the fact that this ends on that concert hall scene, yeah, I mean, it just gives me the feeling right at the end every time.
Sweet.
So, yeah.
I love that for you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, wrap it up. What's our social media?
On to the socials. So, thank you for getting this far in this podcast. If you would like to interact with us, ask us any questions or anything like that, you can find us on the social medias. We're on Instagram at Small Town Big Screen, as well as Facebook and TikTok under the same name. We're also on Twitter at STBS_pod and Reddit at STBS_podcast. And if you aren't so much into the socials but still want to get in touch, you can reach out to us at smalltownbigscreen.pod@gmail.com.
Well, for Small Town Big Screen, I'm Manny Manuel.
And I'm Kyle Robertson.
Adios!